I knew I had won the moment Patricia Blackwell stopped yelling. Not because she apologized. People like Patricia do not apologize. They just run out of words and pretend silence is dignity. She was standing in my backyard, wearing a white linen blazer in 92-degree heat, staring at the brick building behind me like I had built a casino in the middle of a church parking lot. The chimney was puffing a slow, clean ribbon of oak smoke into the summer sky. The smell of brisket was rolling over the fence. And half the neighborhood was holding paper plates, trying not to smile too hard. Patricia pointed one finger at me and said, "This is not the kind of thing decent people do in a residential community." And I said, "Funny, because the county inspector called it fully permitted." That was the first time I ever saw her blink like a normal human being. Now, before you decide I'm some rich guy with too much time and a revenge budget, let me explain. My name is Caleb Mercer. I live in a little planned neighborhood outside Tulsa called Briar Creek Ridge, which sounds fancier than it is. It is mostly split-level houses, two-car garages, kids leaving bikes in driveways, dads pretending to understand lawn care, and moms speed-walking at 6 a.m. like they are training for war. I moved there after my divorce. I had a used pickup, a rescue dog named Biscuit, and a backyard smoker I bought secondhand from a man who called me brother 6 times in one conversation. I was not trying to impress anybody. I was trying to keep myself from falling apart. On weekdays, I worked as a maintenance supervisor at an apartment complex. On weekends, I cooked ribs, chicken thighs, pork shoulder, sausage links, sometimes a brisket if payday had been kind. Nothing fancy, just salt, pepper, smoke, patience, and the kind of quiet that makes a man feel like his life still belongs to him. At first, it was just me and Biscuit out there, me sitting in a folding chair, him watching the smoker like it owed him money. Then my neighbor Eddie came over one Saturday and said, "Man, I smelled that from my garage. You selling plates?" I laughed and handed him a rib. Next weekend, Eddie brought his wife. Then the Garcias from 2 doors down came over with potato salad. Then old Mr. Larkin shuffled through the side gate with a 6-pack and said, "I do not drink alone, and you do not barbecue alone. Those are the rules." By the end of that summer, my backyard had turned into the unofficial Saturday spot. Nothing loud, nothing wild. Just neighbors eating, laughing, kids chasing each other around the sprinkler, folks forgetting about bills and deadlines for a few hours. For a while, I thought maybe Briar Creek Ridge was exactly what I needed. Then Patricia moved in. She bought the big gray house on the corner, the one with the stone columns nobody asked for. She had a little fountain installed by the front porch, joined the HOA board before her boxes were unpacked, and somehow managed to say the word standards more often than most people say hello. The first time she came to my door, I knew I was in trouble. She rang the bell at 4:18 on a Saturday afternoon. I remember the time because I had just wrapped a pork shoulder and my hands smelled like applewood and vinegar sauce. I opened the door, and there she was, sunglasses on top of her head, clipboard against her chest, lips pressed so tight they looked stapled shut. "Mr. Mercer?" she said. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Patricia Blackwell, HOA Compliance Chair." That title came out of her mouth like she had just announced she was Secretary of State. I smiled, because my mama raised me right. "Nice to meet you." She did not smile back. She leaned slightly to one side, looking past me toward the backyard. "I am here about the smoke." "The smoke?" "Yes, the barbecue smoke. It is drifting." I waited for the rest of the sentence, because smoke drifting is kind of what smoke does. She lowered her voice. "This is a family neighborhood." That one hit weird. I looked down at my old t-shirt, my work boots, the sauce stain near my pocket, and suddenly I understood what she was really saying. She was not talking about smoke. She was talking about me. I said, "We are just cooking, ma'am. The neighbors are over. You are welcome to grab a plate." Her face changed like I had offered her roadkill. "No, thank you. I do not eat food prepared in unsanitary outdoor conditions." I felt my ears get hot. Behind me, Eddie's little boy shouted, "Mr. Caleb, the ribs are ready?" Patricia's eyes narrowed. "Children are present." "Yes," I said slowly. "Eating dinner." She made a note on her clipboard. "I will be documenting this." And then she walked away. I tried to laugh it off. I really did. I told Eddie she was just one of those people who needed a hobby. But that night, after everybody left and the chairs were stacked by the fence, I sat alone under the porch light with Biscuit at my feet. staring at the smoker. I had spent the last year feeling like a failure. Failed husband. Failed homeowner, at least according to my bank account. Failed version of the man I thought I would be by 40. That smoker, that backyard, those Saturdays, they were the first thing in a long time that made me feel useful. And now some woman with a clipboard had decided it was trashy. The first violation notice came 3 days later. Excessive smoke, offensive odor, improper use of common residential atmosphere. I read that line 6 times. Common residential atmosphere. Like I had polluted the sacred oxygen of suburbia with pulled pork. The fine was $75. I paid it because I did not want trouble. The next Saturday, I used less wood. I kept the fire cleaner. I even moved the smoker farther from her side of the street. Even though her house was not close enough to smell anything unless she was standing on her roof with binoculars. The second notice came Monday. This one said, repeated nuisance behavior and unauthorized food gathering. Unauthorized food gathering. That was when I called my brother Marcus. He listened to me rant for 10 straight minutes, then said, Caleb, you know what your problem is? I'm guessing Patricia? No. Your problem is you keep acting like reasonable people can reason with unreasonable people. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the HOA letter. Marcus said, read the bylaws. I laughed. Man, I would rather eat drywall than eat drywall and pay fines forever. So I read them. All 84 pages. Fence height. Mailbox color. Approved roof shingles. Holiday decorations. Trash bin placement. Rules about bird baths that made me question the future of the country. Then, around page 62, I found it. Section 9, paragraph F. Permanent outdoor cooking structures, including masonry ovens and covered culinary installations, are permitted when professionally constructed and compliant with municipal code. I read it again, then again, and I smiled so hard Biscuit lifted his head like he was worried about me. Patricia had been attacking my little rolling smoker. Fine. I would stop using a little rolling smoker. I would build something permanent. Now, I did not go crazy right away. That came gradually. First, I called the county office. Then I called a contractor named Luis, who specialized in patios, outdoor kitchens, and what he called rich people fire things. I showed him the HOA rule, my yard, and my budget, which made him whistle in a way that was not encouraging. He said, "You want basic?" I looked at Patricia's house down the street. "No," I said. "I want legal." That made him grin. The plan became a brick outdoor cookhouse, 12 feet by 16, with a covered roof, a masonry pit, a built-in Santa Maria grill, a prep counter, a sink, and a tall chimney designed to carry smoke upward instead of sideways. It was cleaner, safer, prettier, and somehow, because of Patricia, much more expensive than just letting a man cook ribs in peace. I pulled permits. I got inspections. I submitted the paperwork to the HOA Architectural Committee, and because Patricia was so busy trying to prove I was violating the rules, she apparently forgot to read the one rule that protected me. Approval came through in 12 days. Construction started on a Tuesday morning. By noon, Patricia was on the sidewalk. "What is this?" she called, while Luis and his crew were marking the foundation. I walked over with a cup of coffee. "Morning, Patricia. What are they building?" "An approved permanent outdoor culinary installation." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "That sounds like a restaurant." "Nope. Sounds like Section 9, paragraph F." She stepped closer to the property line. "Mr. Mercer, I do not know what game you think you are playing." I looked at her clipboard, then back at her. The one with rules. For the next 3 weeks, my backyard looked like a construction site, and Patricia looked like she was aging in dog years. Every morning, she walked by slowly. Every afternoon, I would find some new email in my inbox. Concern about noise. Concern about property values. Concern about possible rodents. At one point, she claimed the brick color was visually aggressive. Luis read that one and said, "Brother, your HOA lady needs a sandwich." The cookhouse went up anyway. Brick by brick, it became real. The chimney rose over the fence line. The roof went on. The grill was installed. The pit was sealed. The county inspector came by, checked everything, signed the permit card, and said, "This is nicer than my kitchen." The first official cookout was the 4th of July. I did not plan that for symbolism, but I was not mad about it. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning and lit the first fire. Not a dirty fire, Not clouds of black smoke. Just clean blue oak smoke curling into the dark like a secret. I seasoned 2 briskets, 6 racks of ribs, chicken quarters, and a pan of beans big enough to baptize a toddler. Around noon, people started wandering over. Eddie brought cornbread. The Garcias brought salsa and watermelon. Mr. Larkin wore an American flag shirt and said, "I came for constitutional reasons." By 3 o'clock, my yard was full. And then Patricia arrived. She did not come alone. She had 2 HOA board members with her, both looking like they would rather be at the dentist. She marched through the open side gate without asking, stopped in front of the cookhouse, and stared. The sign above the counter had been Eddie's idea. I probably should not have agreed to it, but I did. It said, Patricia's Smoke-Free Grill Pavilion. The whole yard went quiet. Patricia looked at the sign, then at me. "Take that down." I wiped my hands on a towel. "Why? It is harassment." "It is a dedication." People started coughing into their plates, trying not to laugh. She pointed toward the pit. "This structure is a public nuisance." One of the board members, a tired man named Alan, muttered, "It is permitted, Patricia." She snapped her head toward him. "Do not undermine me." That was the moment everything shifted. Because people heard it. They heard the way she spoke when she thought she owned the room. They heard the disrespect I had been hearing for months. Mrs. Garcia stepped forward. "Patricia, Caleb has done everything you asked. He made it safer, cleaner, better. Why are you still bothering him?" Patricia said, "Because some of us care about the character of this neighborhood." Mr. Larkin laughed once, sharp and bitter. "Lady, this is the character of the neighborhood. You are the one who keeps missing it." I will never forget her face. She was not embarrassed. She was furious that people she considered background characters had started talking back. Then she made her final mistake. She said, "Some people simply do not understand how to live among better company." The yard went dead silent. I felt that sentence land in my chest. Every fine, every fake complaint, every look at my boots, my truck, my job, my life. There it was, finally out loud. I stepped toward her. Not fast. Not angry. Just enough. "Patricia," I said, "I fix broken pipes for a living. I unclog drains. I patch drywall. I work with my hands. And every Saturday, I feed anybody who walks through that gate. So if that makes me bad company, then I guess bad company eats pretty well." Nobody clapped. Not at first. Then Eddie did. Then Mrs. Garcia. Then the whole backyard. Patricia turned red, spun around, and left so fast one of her board members had to jog to keep up. 2 days later, she filed a formal complaint with the county. The inspector came back out the next Friday. Different guy this time, named Roy. Big beard, mirrored sunglasses, looked like he had personally fought a bear and then apologized to it. Patricia stood there with a folder thick enough to qualify as a novel. Roy inspected the cookhouse. Checked the chimney. Checked the clearance. Checked the permits. Then he looked at Patricia and said, "Ma'am, this is one of the cleanest residential outdoor cooking structures I've seen." She said, "But the smell dash." Roy sniffed the air. I had pork belly burnt ends resting in a pan. He said, "The smell is not a code violation. Seems like you are the only disturbance I can document today." That line became famous in Briar Creek Ridge. Within a month, Patricia resigned from the HOA board. She did not move, which honestly made things funnier. She just stopped walking on my side of the street. The cookhouse became our neighborhood tradition. First Saturdays of the month. Everybody brought something. I cooked. Kids grew up running through my yard. People who used to wave politely became friends. The kind of friends who know when your dog dies, when your back goes out, when you need help replacing a water heater, when you are pretending to be okay but are not. And here is the part people argue about. A few months later, a local food writer came to one of the cookouts. Then a regional magazine called. Then a barbecue sauce company offered to partner with me. Nothing huge, nothing glamorous, but enough to make me wonder if the thing Patricia tried to shame out of me might become something bigger than a weekend hobby. Last week, Eddie asked if I would ever take down the sign. Patricia's Smoke-Free Grill Pavilion. I looked at it for a long time. Part of me thinks it is petty. Another part of me thinks some monuments are supposed to remind people what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. So I have not taken it down. Not yet. Maybe I will someday. Or maybe I will add lights. Now I want to know what you think. Was I wrong for pushing back the way I did? Or did Patricia get exactly what she earned? Have you ever seen someone use rules, status, or community standards just to look down on somebody else? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I promise you, every neighborhood has a Patricia, and every Patricia eventually meets someone who reads the fine print.